5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk Radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Yeah, good evening and welcome back to the KTPF this Sunday evening. Sorry about last week. I wasn't really up to it. I was very, very bad with sore throat and everything, so wasn't I, Steve?
You was. We just wrapped you up warm and...
Yeah, you wouldn't have heard nothing. I would have been coughing and spluttering all over the place, and I'm blaming my doctor at the hospital.
Got the old cold and flu down you.
Yep, the doctor at the hospital had a cold, didn't he, dear?
He did. He did.
And so I think he gave it to me. Right, well, tonight I've been looking forward to for a long, long time. And if things don't change in the next half hour, I may still be looking forward to it in a long, long time. Because tonight we've got guests coming on tonight. Andy Mercer is coming on later to talk about the Old Hag syndrome. And we were hoping to get Wade Davis on this evening, but he hasn't got back to me, unfortunately, so fingers crossed that he does turn up, because it's a great conversation that we were going to have, and it's something that I've always wanted on the show, to be honest with you, something to share and everything, but we'll have to see what happens there. I'm watching my Skype vividly, so to see whether he does come on. I hope he hasn't forgotten. That's the thing. So if he doesn't come on, rather, I'm sure we'll get him some other time. Wish it was tonight, but see what happens. And as I say, Andy Mercer's got a great topic to talk about as well. So it's not all down and gloomy, is it, really?
No, we do still have Andy, and we have your good self so that we can talk amongst ourselves about different things.
Yeah, I did send him an email about 5 minutes ago, so I'm hoping that he's got that and maybe reminded him. If you hear a little bit of groaning in the background, we have a foster dog with us, and at the moment he's in the cage because he's being a bit of a pain at the moment. So may let him out in a bit. But anyway, hi to everyone in the chat room.
He's been naughty and digging the garden up again to where he's been.
Yeah, my poor memorial garden.
It's a mess.
So all that hard work. Right, well, in the chat room at the moment, we've got Andy707. Yes, you are there to save the day. We've got John down there in Norfolk, Norwich.
Yeah. Em's not in because she was still signed into this computer.
Oh, right, so she's not here.
No, so that was me.
All right, then. So, well, we have got quite a few people on at the moment, so, you know,
yes.
But they're not actually showing up
in the actual chat room. Well, hopefully we can still get over the way when the time comes. We can try, and if not, we shall carry on regardless.
Yes, definitely. But just to give you an idea, just in case he does come on, we were going to talk about zombies, to be honest with you. Back in 1981, Angelina Narcissus let out an attention-grabbing scream in an open market in the town of Leicester. No one had grabbed her purse or anything. Just that her brother, whom she had not seen for a long time, had approached her for a bit of small talk. It would have been the most joyous reunion, except that, well, back in 1962, she and her whole family had buried that beloved brother and had a funeral for him. And so we're talking, nearly 20 years, Steve?
Yeah.
You know. But as earlier as 1938, there have been rumours of a potion that could induce the death-like state. But the ingredients were so guarded that it was impossible to find out what they were. It was said that no sorcerer would reveal it. So do zombies exist? If so, how can they be explained scientifically? Well, if our friend Wade comes on, we'll be asking him all about it, because he's been there.
Yes, and MPS reckons that maybe the zombies got him.
Maybe. MPS? Do we have MPS?
Norwich Paranormal Society.
Oh, NPS. Right, so that's what's coming up there, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yes, Mr. Ooh-ah.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, and as I say, later on we will be talking about the Old Hag syndrome. So what we're going to do for now is we're going to carry on with the show regardless. And we've had a week. We've had a bit of a quiet week, really, haven't we?
We
trying
have
to get better and what have you.
Yes, I had all the observations up ready for last week. So I've still got them.
So, and if you want to see the observations, you can see them in the forum.
You can. I do put them in.
And also, there's quite a lot of things in the forum. If you've ever decided to have a look in there, I don't know whether any of you have, but if you nip over to the forum anytime, into the discussion area on the forum, there's quite a lot there, and there's also bits and pieces about equipment and useful information. If you happen to be a group that's doing investigations, one of your prime leaders, co-founders or somebody like that can get access as affiliated member to the locations database. Steve Mayer has got some projects in there, so has Richard Freeman has got his chronicles. Plus there's all stuff about angels, black cats, astral projection, crystals, meditation and visualizations, near-death experiences, to name but a few, including urban myths and legends, and also religious beliefs as well, from Freemasons to Greco-Romans, Indian religions, paganism, and also voodoo. So perhaps you can have a look over there and add some of your topics to the forum, and also give us your opinions on some of the stuff. So please drop in there and have a look. So Steve, over to you with the observations.
Oh yes. But if you remember rightly, when Emma was here last, she was telling me about the old man of size. Well, there's a new twist. The Poppy Bomb in UK is allegedly haunted by a ghost, but paranormal researchers in Denver, Colorado are saying boo. The surveillance tape of the alleged ghost sighting. The freaky footage shows what appears to be a shadowy figure coming into view at the Old Man of Size, one of Britain's oldest pubs. Manager Tony Dooley said he discovered the alleged apparition while checking the surveillance video early morning on Valentine's Day. He claimed the camera mysteriously stopped recording at 6:18, the Manchester Evening News reported. I came down and saw a glass smashed on the floor, so I was instantly suspicious and went to check the CCTV and found it had stopped working. He told the paper we checked the footage and it revealed this figure. To be honest, I'm a bit concerned. I'm a bit of a skeptic when it comes to ghosts, but you become more of a believer when you see things like that. It might be convincing to Dooley, but Brian Bonner of Rocky Mountain Paranormal Society says there's good reason to be skeptical. In response to the video, his group made a similar video in the brew pub in Arvada, Colorado. They admit it's completely bogus. It was done with multiple shots, and they were composite together and then adding the timestamp to show that it was all one piece. It was actually about 8 different shots of the same area. He told the Huffington Post by email. It took less than 45 minutes to shoot and about an hour to edit together. Like the video recorded at the Old Man of Size, the Colorado video also begins with an opening notice. Anytime there is text at the beginning of an unaltered video, you can be sure it has been altered. The purpose of the text is to position the happening in your mind before you see it. It is a suggestion to suspend belief. It also demonstrates that the perpetrator brought the video into a video editing program and is therefore no longer unaltered. In the KTPS opinion, this statement is a bit harsh. It is possible that the video was not altered, even though they have added the script at the beginning. I mean, we've done it many a time, haven't we? Mm-hmm. And we've put things up and just told them where it was, kind of thing. but we haven't actually changed the actual video.
No.
So it's that may be a bit harsh. Having said that, although 58% of readers surveyed in the Mirror thought the video was a hoax, the Old Man of Size is using it to generate publicity. The pub is the fourth oldest in the country and is said to be haunted by James Stanley, the 7th Earl of Derby, the Mirror reported. Numerous ghosts have allegedly been seen at the Old Man of Size, including a woman who committed suicide in the pub's cellar, an 8-year-old girl, and a phantom dog, according to the Metro. If it turns out the ghost video wasn't faked, one thing that's definitely not real is the so-called spook's alleged Twitter account, at Man of Size Ghost. Well, there you go. Ghost even has its own Twitter account.
Oh, well, there you go.
What do you
Something
think?
new.
What do you think, guys? You guys that saw the video, do you think it was faked?
So we'll have to see. Right, what else?
Have to see what comes through.
Mm.
Okay, the SB7 Spirit Box, or why it should not be used.
Okay.
This was put up on March 3rd, 2014. Electromagnetic voice phenomena is everywhere, and as more and more people decide to start investigation, the unknown, the latest, greatest gadgets are usually what is being used. People blindly follow what is seen on TV, and they too want to use the same equipment. Take, for example, the simple and easy SB7 Spirit Box. The idea is simply scanning through radio stations at fast enough pace. It will, of course, make it impossible to get anything other than spirits speaking. If a voice carries through the multiple station, then it must be paranormal, and therefore real. Here's the obvious problem that arises with using such a device. There will almost always be radio stations in the area where it is being used. This means there will always be interface with people wanting to believe will make mistake any sound or anything paranormal. Like the Ovilus, the SB7 Spirit Box doesn't really deliver anything but a good show. People unfamiliar with how EVPs were first captured will think this is the only way it works. The first EVPs were simply using a recording device and gradually moved onto different media such as TVs, handheld camcorders, etc. Tube televisions were used and left in stations that were nothing but white noise. Certain areas of paranormal research can be the best benefited by leaving it with these devices and foregoing fads like the SB7 Spirit Box. Instead of tuning through radio stations and having to decipher if it was real or a station, why not find a radio and just leave it on the same station that is nothing but white noise? No deciphering needed, and you'll be $90 richer. So apparently the SB7 Spirit Box is $90.
Ooh.
I don't actually know it myself, although there's quite a few Spirit Boxes out there. So here we go. A teenager finds strange marks on her legs.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. Here we go. 17-year-old girl was playing with the black light last week when she noted strange markings on her legs. The teenager's grandmother posted the story and photos of the girl's legs on a paranormal website on Saturday. A woman posted a thread called Strange and Unexplained Symbols on my granddaughter's calves on the top secret website. The 61-year-old claims that her granddaughter was using a UV flashlight last Friday when she noticed something strange on her legs. The 17-year-old granddaughter was playing with her handheld black light yesterday, and all of a sudden she saw strange symbols on both her calves. She was so frightened that she came running downstairs to me in tears, the teenager's grandmother said. According to the woman, her granddaughter is not the type of person to play games or practical jokes. We tried washing them off, took lotion to try and remove them, and even tried nail polish remover with no success. They only show under a black light and are not visible to the naked eye. I think they resemble a rune symbol, but I'm unable to find any that match her markings. They are all the same looking, older than others. Somehow there is on each calf. They are very bright and clear under black light. They are all exactly the same, and as if somebody had done this to her, they would have had to use a stencil. These were not put there by anyone else, and it is a true mystery as to how they got there or what they are, the woman said.
Yeah.
When asked why the teenager was using the UV light on her legs, her grandmother said that she was shining it around in her room when she noticed something on her leg. The woman stated that her granddaughter doesn't go to clubs and there isn't any UV paint in their home. Many people have suggested that the markings are paranormal in nature, and some folks believe that the markings might have come from aliens. Someone said that it looks like the Monster Energy drink logo. Another person suggests that the teenager got it from shaving her legs, and that the markings might be from the lubrication strip from the razor.
Was there any photos with these?
There is one photo, which
Have you got the link for it?
I do not, unfortunately, but I can show you, because obviously you can see it on my computer here.
Okay.
And you can see, there you go.
Oh, right, weird. Where did you get that from?
I found it on, as usual, on about.com.
Right, okay. What was the title?
Teenage finds strange markings on her legs. You're going to try and find the link.
Yeah.
Are you? Good old Susie. Right, let's get down to our next story. Okay. Would you spend $1 million on a haunted house?
No.
No, okay. Civil War era country mansion up for sale, complete with its own ghostly coach and horses. A 400-year-old haunted house has been put up for sale, but the £1 million price tag could spook some buyers. Hembler's house in the village of Clancy, North Wales, was built during the English Civil War and is rumoured to boast its own ghostly carriage and horses, which clatter through the gateway to the house of the Grade 1 listed 7-bedroom country mansion. Was built for a wealthy landowner during the siege of Chester in 1645.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Helen Generis.
Oh, yeah, Ellen.
You like Helen, don't you?
I like Ellen.
Apparently her house is haunted.
Oh, right.
This was in Bang Showbiz on March 1st. The talk show star and her wife, Portia de Rossi, bought the Brody house in Los Angeles, Holmby Hills area for $40 million. Wow, £40 million for a house.
Wow.
In January, but haven't been able to get a good night's sleep thanks to ghostly appearance going on. A source said the house had been remodeled so Ellen thought it would have no trace of the former owner, but she was wrong. Within a few nights of moving in, Helen started hearing random noises, including footsteps and doors opening and closing. Then in the middle of the night, she heard a woman's faint cry. Ellen is totally freaked out. She hasn't had a solid night's sleep ever since she moved in. The 13,000 square foot Brody house was built for property developer Sidney Brody and his wife Frances in 1951. Sidney passed away in 1981, but it was the spirit of his wife who died in 2009 that is said to haunt the property, and friends have convinced Helen and Portia to take a drastic action to cleanse the house from property and spirit. The source added to the National Enquirer magazine, friends have convinced Helen to conduct a spiritual cleansing ceremony in the house. She doesn't want her new home to have any bad energy, and she's not going to share it with Frances Brody. There you go.
Right.
Frances Brody is still looking after her house, even though Helen Generis doesn't like the idea.
Well, you know what we say, if we have got anybody in your house, you just say to them,
Yeah.
leave me alone.
Enough,
do what you want to do,
already.
that's
Go
it.
away.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go with our next one. Meet the Sixth Sense boy who talks to his dead grandparents.
Oh.
The parents of 4-year-old boy says he has psychic powers which he uses correctly to predict his mum's miscarriage and that she would later have twin boys. Heather and Greg Howell from Naples, Florida, said they noticed son Elijah's unusual behaviour from a young age. He speaks to his dead grandparents and can see into the future. And this little 4-year-old boy.
They say that it happens when they're young, don't
It
it?
does. Right, here's one for you. Was it a miracle?
What was what a miracle?
Bible stops 2 bullets to save the bus driver's life.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you see it in all the films. But it's usually a cigarette case or something, or gin flask. What makes a miracle? A bus driver gets shot in the chest twice, yet the bullets barely leave a scratch. Why? Because in his front chest pocket is a Bible. A modern day miracle or just a great bit of luck? Hi, Bill.
Bill's joined us.
Yes, indeed. Now, I would put that down to a lot of luck.
Yes, definitely. What else we got?
Okay. Man declared dead comes to life at funeral home. Miracle.
Oh, dear.
78-year-old man declared dead and zipped into a body bag began moving and breathing when placed on a table inside a Lexington, Mississippi funeral home, and the local coroner said he believes it's nothing short of a miracle from God. We've heard quite a bit of this lately, haven't we? Through one source or another.
Definitely.
Okay. Professor Ronald Mallet wants to build a time machine in this century, and he's not kidding.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Time travel. Since Einstein formulated his special theory of relativity, we have known that it is theoretically possible to invent, a time machine, but few people or lay professionals have taken the concept very seriously anymore. Yet University of Connecticut professor Dr. Ronald Mallet still believes he has sought to realize his dream to make a time travel possible in this century. As a respected theoretical physicist, he braved ridicule of his colleagues to begin work on his time machine.
Okay.
Since coming out to speak as a proponent of time travel, Dr. Mallet published a memoir in 2006, Time Traveler, a scientist's personal mission to make time travel a reality, is both a description of his 50 years of scientific work towards his project Space-Time Twisting by Light, STL, and moving personal narrative of growing up under segregation, losing his father at a young age, and becoming one of the first African-American theoretical physicists. Spike Lee has acquired the film rights to his memoir. Dr. Mallet has also told his story to the American Life and CNN and in speaking tours around the country. Whether Mallet's enthusiasm will translate into reality remains to be seen, but his passion for Einstein's predictions is infectious and illuminating. What do you reckon? You reckon somebody have actually discovered how to bend round time and travel backwards and forwards?
It sounds a good idea, doesn't it?
Well, it's theoretically possible, but
Theoretically, yeah.
How do you? Who's sick? Andy says somebody's sick.
The book.
Oh, the
Bible.
That was me thinking you'd call me thick there. I know. The Bible is a very thick book. It is indeed. Depending on which version you're using, of course. If you're using the whole Bible or just the New Testament, it can be quite different. Okay, here we go again. Board certificated psychiatrist admits woman who levitated off the floor, spoke foreign languages, and demonstrates psychic powers was demon possessed.
Well, they say that, don't they? These people that are supposed to be possessed, they're all supposed to speak foreign languages and talk in tongues, as they call it.
Talk in tongues and Latin when they don't know how to speak Latin and all the rest of it, yes. That's one of the things. An American woman who levitated 6 inches off the floor, spoke foreign languages unknown to her, and demonstrated paranormal psychic powers was clearly demon-possessed, according to a board-certified psychiatrist and associate professor of clinical psychiatry in New York Medical College. Now, this is one that Andy could probably talk about. He was in that area, wasn't he?
Yes, he was in that area.
The unnamed woman with a long history of involvement with satanic groups was observed by a team of priests, deacons, several lay assistants, psychiatrists, nuns, and some of whom had medical and psychiatric training, levitating 6 inches off the ground, while objects flew off shelves in the same room, according to Dr. Richard E. Gallagher, who documented the case.
Okay.
Periodically, in our presence, Julia would go into trance state of a recurring nature, writes Gallagher. We now know what the lady's name is, even though she was unnamed earlier.
Yeah.
And you may have noticed that. Where was I? Yes. Out of her mouth would come various threats, taunts, and what the heck? Scatological language phrases.
There you go.
Somebody enlighten me. What does that mean?
Scatty talk.
Like to leave her alone, you idiot. She's ours. Leave, you imbecile priest, or just leave. And the tone of the voice differed markedly from Julia's own, and it varied, sometimes sounding guttural and vaguely masculine. At other points, high-pitched. Most of her comments... Stop, you're making me laugh. During these trances, the subsequent exorcism displayed a marked contempt for anything religious or sacred.
It's John's been waiting for some tongue twisters, and only said it's Scatman. Oh, I don't know. Go on.
Okay. Haunted Kentucky Hospital will soon reopen as a hotel.
Okay.
Now, I have mentioned this one before.
Have you? Why can't it be in England?
Because Waverly Hills is not in England.
No, true.
A hospital designed for tuberculosis patients in the first half of the 20th century, Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisiana, Kentucky, has since developed a reputation of one of the world's most haunted places, leading to its appearance on episodes of Ghost Hunters, Scariest Places on Earth, Most Haunted, Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Challenge, and more. This could be the most haunted hotel in the world once finished. And would that prevent you from staying there?
Mm.
Would you like to stay at the Waverly Hills Hotel?
Yeah, I probably would actually.
It's also rumoured that it's going to be wrapped round by a golf course.
Wrapped round by a golf course.
Yeah, there's going to be a golf course wrapped round it. So they're building the golf course there as well. Okay, now this one, there was a video, but unfortunately I was dumb enough not to get the link. Maybe you can find it for Susie.
Okay.
It's raining in the middle of the street, and only in the middle of the street. For those who can't see the video, it was posted on the 3rd of this month. What does the video show? Rain, but not just any old rain.
I remember you seeing that.
The camera pans up. It's not someone using a garden hose from above. Nope. Rain is falling, roughly in an oval pattern, a few feet across wide, and nowhere else. It's not coming from underground. You can clearly see distinctly that it's rain.
Whereabouts is this?
Whereabouts
was it?
You'll find it on the same site.
That's all right. I've got Miami-Dade. I've got Belize in Santa Fe.
Hang on, I might be able to get up to you in just a second. The camera put up. There we go. A car is parked in the foreground. Lights and flashes on. A group of young people are laughing, nervously repeating, "But it's dry everywhere but there. It's raining just there." Then one girl makes reference to a Fantozzi cloud, and this is a phenomenon. No acting here, folks. I bet my hat that this is a real deal. It did look really good, didn't it?
Whereabouts is it?
You'll find it on about.com.
Oh, it's on about.com,
Yes.
is it?
I'm not sure if it takes you elsewhere, but you'll find the link on there.
Okay. So, because it's not there at the moment, and when I googled it, it gave me 2 different places. Hey, I've got to go the long way round.
Researchers crowdsource funds to back Ouija board science project.
Okay.
A scientist at University of British Columbia lab examining human unconsciousness using Ouija boards are taken to the internet to look for research funds. Docky Duncan, a research assistant with UBC's Visual Cognition Lab, said in an interview Tuesday that the project is off the beaten track and there has been incredible difficulty in getting even the modest $2,000 in funding it needs. I'm sorry, but change your name. Would you give money to somebody called Docky Duncan?
No.
I definitely wouldn't.
Docky Duncan.
Not me. A Fife family have recruited a psychic to help in the search for their missing son.
Right.
We're willing to give anything a try. Alan Bryant's family turned to psychic. The parents of Alan Bryant Jr. will meet a spiritualist later this week and have said that they will try anything to find the 24-year-old more than 4 months since he was last seen. Alan Sr. and his wife Marie Degan also purchased their own mobile billboard to keep the hunt for Glenn Ross man in the public eye. Speaking to the Courier, Alan said he was just desperate for closure on his son's fate. Commenting on the psychic, he said, "It's not something that I'm into, but we're willing to give anything a try. The person we have is world class, and there's no bridge that we wouldn't cross to try and find Alan." Lindsay Roy MP actually passed on details. He didn't say call them, but he said it was something we might want to look into. Alan was last seen during the early hours of Sunday, November the 3rd, leaving the Styx nightclub on Cascabaron Road in Glen Ross. Security camera footage has shown him leaving the venue at 2:02. A special fund was established to help search. Shortly after he disappeared, thousands of pounds have already been donated to the public and local business, with a reward also on offer for anyone who can help solve the mystery. Alan Sr. added, "We used donations to buy a trailer and billboard. Was built for free by our neighbour. The main reason behind it is to get people joining the Facebook page. Folk driving by might see it, and it will help the page grow a bit more. It also helps to keep Alan in the public eye. Hopefully it can keep the police going as well. As well as being publicised locally, Alan Jr.'s face has also become well known to supporters of his beloved Celtic football club. The club has recently advertised his disappearance at its home matches by placing an appeal on the giant screens at Parkhead." So there you go. Let's hope the psychic can help them there.
I think I found the link for the video for the raining in the street.
Ah, brilliant.
So hopefully I did. If not, that's another one.
Just goes to show.
You're going to have to keep the links.
It's a Fantasy cloud.
You're going to have to keep the links.
Okie dokie. I will. Beatle guitarist George Harrison lit up the room when he died.
Did he?
He did. There are a number of perplexing cases that involve quite healthy people close to or caring for the dying person. One such phenomenon is the dying light, where those caring for the dying have described seeing a bright light surrounding the person as they pass away, exuding what they relate as a raw feeling of love. So there you go.
Any more for any more?
Oh yes, and
You're making up for last week.
oh yes, and on a happy note,
Go on then.
I got a happy note.
We have a happy
The
note.
RNLI incident is a life saved. The incident has been recorded as a life saved as there were no other boats in the area at the time. I don't think anyone was actually aware he was in the water. He was incredibly fortunate in that respect. We still don't know how he came to be in the water, but due to an unusual twist of fate, we managed to avoid one more fatality on the River Thames last night.
Oh yeah.
The first person who was threatening to jump from London Bridge was probably had no idea that, all things considered, he saved another man's life. Basically what it was, he was threatening to jump, and underneath him in the water was another man drowning.
All right.
So, but obviously the lifeboat was brought in case the first one jumped, and they found the other one at the bottom.
Bloody hell.
So by threatening to kill himself, he actually saved somebody else. The man eventually didn't jump, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's good then. Was that your last one?
that was my last one.
Oh, good. He's making up for last week. If you've just joined us, we were hoping to have Wade Davis on tonight, but he hasn't got back to me, unfortunately. I was meant to have confirmed yesterday about today, which I did do, but I haven't heard anything from him since. I'm leaving my Skype on in case he comes on, But we were scheduled to talk to him today, this evening, but I'm assuming something's happened, or I'm checking my emails and everything to see whether there's any response. I have emailed him again, but nothing seems to have come through. But as I say, if he does come on Skype, we will go over to him as soon as possible. But it's an interview that I've been waiting for over 2 years now. Well, 2 years. Really. It's something I've always wanted to talk to him about since we spoke to him on the Roy Basnett show, wasn't it?
We did.
So, way back when.
That was such an interesting interview that we all just sat there
And listened.
and listened, and apart from Roy asking questions, obviously, but there was me, you, Jebby, and
Mark Rosney.
And I think their compatriot was there as well on that particular occasion. I think all three of them were there, wasn't
Yeah, I think there was. Yeah,
and we just didn't want to interrupt this guy.
No, it was just so fascinating. I wanted you to hear it, but I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. I'm in the dark as much as you are. But we have also got Andy Mercer on tonight. So if we have to go to him a little bit earlier, we will do. As I say, please bear with us. We have something on for you. Now, what I wanted to talk about, just to sort of waste some time here, is there's a new location that's come on the market for paranormal investigations for companies and non-profit groups, and we've booked it for 12th of July. It's actually Lancaster Castle. We've been looking at this place, as a group, for a little while now, because we heard on the local news that it was going to be closing, and we thought if it's going to be closing, then hopefully it would be opened up for paranormal investigations. Now, for those of you who don't know, Lancaster Castle occupies a city centre hilltop location on the site of 3 successive Roman forts. It consists of an extensive group of historic structures, including the 12th century keep, the 14th century Witch's Tower, otherwise known as the Well Tower, the 15th century gatehouse, and the female penitentiary, which dates from the early years of the 19th century. It's a Grade 1 listed building, with the area of the north of it designated as a Schedule of Ancient Monument, and it's still being used as a court at the moment. Now, we went to have a look at this place, and basically we enjoyed it, didn't we? They've only got a few places open at the moment, because as I say, the courthouse is still there, but there are rumours that maybe the court will be leaving, but we don't know. The Ministry of Justice announced in 2010 that it was going to be closing as a prison, and then it closed in March 2011. And as I say, since then we've been trying to acquire this location. They've now opened their doors, and a few investigating groups have managed to get in there. Now, if you are lucky enough to get in there, now I must tell you this, they don't have Ouija boards or anything like that, dowsing rods or stuff like that. You're not allowed to do anything like that, and because it is still the Queen's building, isn't it, Steve?
It is, yes. We were quite shocked when they actually called it black magic.
Yeah, but
like, what?
but as I say, one of the most famous events that took place there was almost 400 years ago. Was the Pendle witch trials. They were entombed in the Well Tower, which is what it's originally called, but it's now called the Witch's Tower because of that.
Yeah, and it is called the Well Tower because as you go in to the left, there is a well. There's a well with fresh water running through it at the bottom.
Yeah, and it's been doing that for quite a few centuries.
It has.
It was built about 1325, and it contains 2 wells and 3 vaulted stone flagged underground dungeons, which were used to house the Lancashire witches prior to their trial in the castle in 1612. 2 of which actually died within this area before they actually were executed. Now, it is a fantastic area. So, oh yes, I'm there, Sister Tigger. But yeah, it really is a nice place, and I do hope that it will build as an investigation place. And not only that, they have assured me that the money is going towards sort of like the upkeep of it and everything.
Yeah,
So,
they do have quite a big maintenance team, don't they?
yes, they do. So, but
Yes.
some of the stories there, though,
Yeah.
that are meant to happen there. Just to let me just give you an idea of what's supposed to be there. There's much poltergeist activity that there's been said, isn't there, Steve?
Yeah, it's been said that poltergeist activity. There's been a lot of audio stuff going on.
Yes.
People hearing women crying. There's been reports can't pronounce the bloody word. Unsubstantiated. That's the one. That prisoners have actually seen spirits walk through their cell walls.
Yeah, and it's actually on the paranormaldatabase.com, which has been going for a number of years. And it actually says there that stories from the 20th century and experiences in 2008, the building is said to hold both prisoners and several ghosts. Well, obviously it doesn't hold the prisoners anymore. A middle-aged woman with a young girl was reported moving around near a cell, while another prisoner again reported the young girl, but this time was a haggard old woman. We're going to be talking about that later. Also, the grey form of a monk has been seen, reportedly once hanged there. A former inmate recently experienced a shadowy figure which walked past him, and as I said, there's been mild poltergeist effects, as they put it. So it could be one of the most wanted, most haunted places that people have been after. Would you say, Steve? It's one of them up there in the top 10, I would think.
I would have thought so. Yeah, there's been so much going on. I mean, it's the castle has actually proved to be older than they thought it was.
Yes.
Because they went into an area because there was getting some water damage, so they had to clean it up and go through. They actually found an archway, and they've gone through, and there's stuff in there that dates back to before they thought the castle was there.
Yeah.
They've actually, correct me if I'm wrong, was it a letter they found, but it's stuck to the stone floor and they can't get it up, so they put perspex over it.
No, what it was, up in one of the buildings.
I know they've put perspex over it.
Yeah, they found
a
minstrel balcony sort of thing, and on the floor there was a sheet of music.
Yeah, sheet music.
It was a sheet of music from dating back then, and they couldn't get it up. So what they've decided to do is put a bit of perspex over it to sort of like protect it. That's the word. Preserve it. So and if you are in Lancaster at all, they do guided tour. They do guided tours.
I'll be going back to Scatman again.
They do guided tours, normally on the hour, and where they can take you all around the prison and the court areas. Best days are a Saturday, obviously, because courts are running during the week. So there's a little bit of info for you, and maybe if you're just visiting the area, something to go and have a look at, isn't it, Steve?
It is, and there are some nice places in Lancaster.
Yeah, there is. There's also the.
I can't remember the name of the pub, but me and you went there when we went up to see the theatre.
Oh yeah.
For something.
Lancaster Theatre.
And they've got a. I can't remember if it's a table or a well cover.
It's a table,
but it's got all the names of the witches engraved in it.
Yeah. Yeah, they got a table. Somebody had done for them.
Supposedly that is where they had their last drink.
So, but as I say, Sorry, I'm getting lost here. Basically, as I say, it is a nice place to go to if you ever fancy it. Not far away from Morecambe Winter Gardens either. So that's that.
Yes, another lovely place to go and visit.
Now, guess what tomorrow is, Steve?
Paddy's Day.
Paddy's Day! If you're up to, celebrating Paddy's Day, then we'd like to wish you all the best of luck for that. Probably go out and have a drink or whatever. So, but as I say, there's not much about St. Patrick's Day. That it was just a quick one that I just wanted to throw in there. But what we are going to do, seeing as I'm not hearing anything from Wade at the moment, in a moment we'll contact our friend Andy if he's ready and talk to him. So, which is a shame because I really want to talk to him. I keep saying hello on Skype, seeing whether he's coming in or whatever. Keep checking my emails, but nothing's coming through. Oh God, this is really heart-wrenching. Never mind. I'm sure we'll get hold of him sooner or later. Maybe not tonight. Right, we're just going to play this.
The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store is a one-stop shop for all of your ghost hunting gadgetry needs. Run by ghost hunters for ghost hunters, the shop is filled with all of the latest in investigation equipment, shipped in from all around the world, from high-quality digital dictaphones to EMF pumps, infrared illuminators to laser grid pens, CCTV equipment to data loggers. All of our equipment has already been imported, so you can buy it safe in the knowledge that there will be no hidden costs. And with our postage promise, you'll never pay more than the actual postage price. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.
Right, okay, I need Andy to connect to me on Skype. So Andy Mercer, can you do that for me, please? If anyone wants to phone in tonight, they can still phone in on 0844 414 3982, but they will be directed to my mobile. So I better put that on actually.
Yeah, that's no extra cost to yourself, guys.
Yeah, because
our phones are still out.
Yeah, thankfully we got out. We had a bit of a problem during the week with our internet. We lost the internet, we lost the phones. The internet thankfully came back the day after, but we're still out with the phones.
Yeah, it's been out since Wednesday. Last Wednesday.
Yeah, so we was hoping we was going to be here for tonight after all this. So I'll put Wade's questions to one side while we await for Andy. Andy, please talk to me in the chat room. So, and tell me that you're coming onto Skype, please. I've got your old thing there, so I don't know whether that's the same one or not.
He needs to swap laptops. He'll be back with you in a second.
All right, okay. So we'll be back with him in a moment.
Yeah, it's going to talk about a subject that I know absolutely nothing about.
Well, funny enough, you should say that, Steve, because I did find a little bit about it whilst I've been tottering about. Now, just think about this while he's getting himself ready.
Go on here.
You're laying in bed.
Yeah.
Fast asleep. Yeah?
Yeah.
You wake up unable to move, barely able to breathe. You feel an impressive weight on your chest. And you sense some evil presence in the room. Have you been visited by the Old Hag? Now, quite possibly, this is one of the most terrifying sleep-related disorders that affects many people than previously thought. Okay, and there is rumours that it is actually down to alien abduction. I'm sure Andy's going to tell us all about this. But from what I've read, the victim can...
Sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
That's what everybody says.
The victim can experience three major entities or hallucinations. Number one, alien abduction is consistent with sleeping paralysis in most cases. Number two, in Newfoundland and England, people experience an old hag, which has documented back for over 2,000 years. And three, a shadowy figure that either stands at the foot of your bed and or attacks the victim violently. Now, as I say, Andy's going to come on and talk to us about this. And it sounds really frightening. You see do you remember the painting that everybody must remember of the incubus sitting on the person while they're asleep?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember the picture.
Yeah. It's something really like that, I suppose. That's what people seem to think. You know, they look at pictures like that and think. I think that's what they think. You know what I mean? That that there's this little person sitting on them and not allowing them to move. But saying that there's not just an incubus, there's also a succubus, and they're quite evil-looking things. You know, you look at incubus on pictures, you even get Pazuzu. Here he comes. He's going to come and tell us all about it. Good evening, Andy.
Oh, at last it's working.
You're
going to lose both guests in one night.
I know. Well, what do you expect? So, but as I say, we've just been saying that. I don't know if you heard me, but
yes, I heard some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that they say that it's one of the terrifying sleep-related disorders that's supposed to have been going on for over 2,000 years.
Well, yeah, exactly that. What, for me, I found interesting was I actually saw a TV program on it quite a few years ago, basically saying the kind of things you were just saying about people's experiences of it. And I was talking, back when I worked in a shop up in the city, I was talking to a guy I was working with, and he said, yeah, I've had that kind of experience. And I thought, deal, that's strange. Tell me about it. And his story was that he used to live up in Glasgow, in Scotland, obviously, with some art students renting a flat. And he said a couple of times he woke up in the night and there was something odd about his room. He said it was the room that he knew, but it was full of light, like a bright yellow light outside, like the kind of thing you get from a street light. Except he knew full well there was no street light outside his window. So he was a bit perturbed by that. And then he said he had tried to get up and move, and he just felt like something was sitting on his chest. He said he wasn't panicking or anything, it just felt really strange and heavy. And he could just have this sense of something wasn't right about the situation. And he said a couple of times it happened, he'd wake up and he'd just sort of fall back to sleep and wake up next morning, everything was fine. But he said it happened a few times, but it was that yellow light was the weird thing.
Yeah.
So really kind of intrigued by that and what his experiences were. So I started to do a bit more research, a bit more digging about these sort of experiences. And at the time, I was running the Institute of Paranormal Research, IOPR, investigation team, and I put on our forum a post up about anybody who's had these sort of experiences, would they, were willing to talk to you about it. And I got quite a few responses. Some of them were obviously just people being silly, but others were quite serious and have had some really nasty experiences with these sorts of things. I mean, I can read a few of these that I've just dug out from when I put this thing up. I had a guy called Ray. I mean, a lot of people ask sort of just to keep to their first names, and in his case, he said he felt like there was someone standing at the end of his room, and he just couldn't move, and found it really, really frightening. A chap called David was saying he knew something was wrong when he realised the room was somehow darker than normal. He couldn't see anything at first and just had a feeling that he wasn't alone, and he kept feeling a pressure on his legs as if something was trying to move was moving actually on his legs. So it was terrifying. But most people find that after a while they either just fall back to sleep or they find themselves actually waking up next morning as if time had just flown by. So it was all very much a strange experience. But my interest kind of sort of waned away for various reasons, involved in other stuff. I closed down the IOPR and that sort of thing. And so when I started working as a hypnotherapist and psychotherapist, it kind of came up again, because a question I always used to ask any new clients is, do you have trouble sleeping at night? Do you have any problems and that sort of thing? Because often if they're stressed or anxious, their sleep patterns are disturbed. They don't sleep properly, or they keep waking up during the night. And this guy said to me, at first, he said, no, I'm usually okay. But he said, I remember this time a little while ago. I woke up lying in bed and I just didn't feel right. I couldn't move at all. I was just staring at the ceiling, and I knew there was somebody in the room with me. I could just get this sense of something at the end of the bed. And I remember I was screaming and shouting to my wife to wake up and help me, but she just lay there completely asleep. And again, it went on for a good few 10, 15 minutes, he said, and I just kind of fell asleep again. I woke up in the morning and had a right go at my wife because I said, I was shouting at you, didn't you hear me? She said, no, you didn't hear anything, you were completely fine.
Yeah.
So it kind of left me wondering, is this, a real experience? Because if his wife is lying beside him and she didn't hear a thing, is he actually having a real experience, or is it just something going on in his imagination, or is it somewhere between the two? So that's really what made me sort of fascinated by this, all these experiences.
Yeah, is the theory out on this and what it actually can be?
Oh, very much so. I've continued to do some more and more digging. As you rightly said yourself, these kind of reports go back centuries. I mean, there are all sorts of stories, myths and legends about the old hag visiting you at night. That was the kind of thing that I found was fascinating, because a lot of the descriptions of people when they could see something in the room had one or two descriptions, one of two. It was either a short, fat woman, like an old hag, like a witch, or a tall, thin, willowy man with sort of long, elongated arms and legs. And the short, fat sounds like a witch, and the tall, thin man sounds like an alien. So it's kind of those two classic images that appear. But descriptions of things like this, so they go back centuries. I mean, there's even in Romeo and Juliet, the Shakespeare play, there's actually a mention of the old hag that visits you and you lie on your back. I'll actually read the quote. I've just dug it out. So it's from Act.
Oh, wait.
It says, "This is the." Sorry.
It's all right. You seem to dip out then.
You disappeared on us for a second.
Oh, sorry, it's just weird noises.
So go on.
The old hag's trying to get me. This is the hag when maids lie on their backs that presses them and leans first to bear, making them women of good carriage. Making them the first to bear women of good carriage, i.e. making pregnant. Because that was one of the things that came up quite often, actually, was the fact that people often felt as if they were being interfered with sexually. That bits that were being grabbed. And again, you've got this idea of alien abductions, of people being sort of having rectal probes and that kind of thing. I mean, even from the song that you sometimes play at the start of the show about Ernie being probed, that kind of idea of these things are doing things to us. Now, whether it's, say, the hags doing strange things to us sitting on our stomachs, or aliens are doing things to us in UFOs and that kind of thing, it was all that kind of imagery that seemed to crop up from modern times, but say also going back centuries. I mean, far back as ancient Sumeria had legends about this creature that visited you in the night. The Greeks called it the Ephilates. I can't quite pronounce it. I'm writing now. I wrote this down years ago. The Latin, of course, it's called incubus and succubus, which we were talking of earlier. That same kind of night spirit, night demon that visits you in the night and scares the poo out of you, basically. These should be called mares or Mars in German, or Old English mare. So it's
Andy.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the incubus and the succubus? Which one's the male and female?
Incubus is supposed to be male, succubus is female, basically.
Okay.
So you've got the idea of the old hag again as the succubus, and the incubus is the man, the male figure. So it's the fact that these two figures seem to crop up in similar descriptions for, most of the people who've experienced it usually describe one thing or the other. Now, this is what interested me as well, was why do people see the same thing? Why not wake up and see, I don't know, a horse in your room, or a football star, or, a film star, someone that you can relate to, or even Freddy Krueger, for example, an actual classical horror image that you're used to, or Frankenstein, or Dracula. But no, it's these particular images that seem to crop up. People seem to see them moving around in their room, and as I say, quite often they're physically attacking them. There are occasions when they're described as both forms being in the room together at the same time. There was, you probably heard of Whitley Strieber, the science fiction writer, who claimed to have been abducted by aliens, and his recollections and descriptions talk about these strange fat old creatures and these tall thin willowy creatures, again fitting into that same kind of imagery. And he of course claims that they then took him off through the window and off into spaceships and did very strange things to him. Now, I don't know how true or accurate those stories are, but this similar imagery is what I found most fascinating. They kept cropping up time and time again.
Right. Could
I'm pausing to breathe, and you can say something now.
It's all right, yeah.
Could it be that these hags, whatever you want to call them, are not actually in the room, but in your dream state, or like on an astral plane, that we're encountering these things?
Well, this is where it starts getting interesting. The more research I was doing, the more I found possible actual physiological explanations for at least some of what was going on.
Okay.
There's a particular state that we go into when we're asleep. When we go into REM or dream sleep, we go into a form of sleep paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why our bodies do that is to ensure that, if you're having a dream where you're running, you're not actually flailing your legs around in bed, or you're dreaming you're having a fight with somebody, you don't throw your arms about and punch your partner in the face. It does actually make your body freeze. It makes it go limp and paralyzed. Now, what could be happening, this is one of the theories, is that your brain is suddenly switching from the deep REM sleep to very light sleep state, whereby you're still actually asleep, but your body is reacting as if you're in deep sleep. So you're kind of half awake, half asleep, and you find that you are unable to move. It's called sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Now, that's one possible explanation for the fact that the body does what it does, and you get this sensation of not being able to move. It doesn't necessarily explain why people get the feeling or sensation of weight on them, although if your body goes limp, if you've ever found your sort of arms gone numb, it can feel heavier than it normally does if it's actually gone completely numb. So that might partly explain it. But also there are lots of reports of this kind of sexual activity being probed or plundered, or whatever you want to call it, actually being assaulted. Now, without going too graphic, human genitalia is very, very sensitive. It's one of the first parts that tends to wake up if your body's been paralysed.
Yeah.
So that is the first part that starts to feel sort of blood flowing back into it. So that can get the feeling of the sensation of being touched or being felt because the body is starting to respond. So that might partly explain why people have that particular sensation. The other part of the equation is what's called hypnagogic or hypnopompic dreaming, which again is to do with a brain state, so your brain reacting in a strange way. Because usually you don't actually dream of things until you're in deep sleep. Now, what the theory is, and what seems to be happening, is that the brain kind of switches off from very light sleep down to very deep sleep very quickly.
Yeah.
And the reverse of which it comes up from very deep sleep to very light sleep very, very quickly. So your brain's in a kind of dream state still, but you are kind of aware of your surroundings. It's almost as if your eyes are open and the information is going into your brain, but you're still actually asleep, which would explain why people see things like the room being darker than it normally is, or like my friend at work, the fact that there's this light outside that he knew shouldn't be there, but yet he seemed to be seeing it when he had these experiences. Because the other thing that my work colleague mentioned was that when he moved from Glasgow to London, he was still having the same experience, the same kind of wake up in the middle of the night, and as if things were moving around the room, or there was something in the room with him. So it was either a possessed entity that followed him from Glasgow to London, or it was the fact his brain was reacting in that certain way. But it still leaves the question that it requires both of these two seemingly separate problems or occurrences to happen at the same time. The hypnagogic dreaming it's dream functioning, the brain and consciousness, but sleep paralysis is motor function. So there are two different parts of the brain that have to, at the same time, stop working properly or create the same effect at the same time. And it just seems odd that both things happen at the same time. And I always kept coming back to this fact that what people saw or experienced was always pretty much the same thing. That's what I found was quite fascinating, this kind of almost deep imagery that somehow sort of ingrained in our unconscious that keeps a crop up in that certain circumstance or situation. And as I say, it's been going on for absolutely centuries. In fact, I was trying to find it earlier today, but I'm in the middle of doing other stuff at the moment, so I couldn't find it. There's an island off of Africa that the entire village seemed to have these same experiences night after night, but the same experiences of strange visitations in the night. But it's the whole village has them at the same time, which is really strange. It does make you wonder if there's something in the water, perhaps, that's causing that to happen, or perhaps they're closely interrelated to each other and inheriting the same kind of genetic predisposition to have these kind of experiences. But that's really what I found was the most fascinating element to it, was that if this is a proper, full explanation of this, what they call the Old Hag syndrome, this kind of night terrors, night visitation, I should say, because night terrors is something different, but night visitations, then why do people have the same imagery? Why do they feel the same kind of things? Why do the descriptions seem to match up so neatly to each other? The same kind of thing, physical assault or perhaps sexual assault, the pressure of being sat on as if something was on them, or the sense there was something just out of eye line that was moving around in the room, although they couldn't never quite see it. And most often that was it. People don't see it. So, I had a few reports of people saying they could hear voices talking to them and telling them not to move. But again, that could be imagination, where the brain's trying to make sense of a collection of strange occurrences all happening simultaneously. And I'm waffling a bit because I forgot the point I was going to make next. But
What about narcolepsy? Couldn't it just be blamed on that?
well, that one's slightly different because that's when the body goes into a death-like state, which is, again, it's below REM sleep. REM is your dream sleep, and the deepest state of sleep is deeper than that. And the brain can get kind of trapped in that state, almost as if they've just gone too deep into sleep. And that has the effect and appearance of death because your heart rate does slow down, your body does become limp. So it's a different kind of problem, but certainly it's in the same kind of field, if you like, of problems to do with our sleep experiences. Because sleep is a very complicated thing. We often think, we just lie down for however many hours, you fall asleep, and that's it. You wake up in the morning, you're refreshed and nice. But what the brain does during the sleep is often quite unknown, really. I mean, we still don't really know exactly where dreams come from, how the dreams work. We know that it's being caused by, I can't remember the science of it now. There's neurons firing the back of the brain in deep sleep. But why those neuron firing translates into images that we see in our dreams, that part still remains a bit of a mystery. I mean, I mentioned the Freddy Krueger thing earlier on, but the village that I was talking about earlier, that's what Wes Craven read and heard about. That was actually the basis for the idea of Nightmare on Elm Street. And Freddy Krueger is that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is sort of that night monster that comes to you in your dreams.
Especially, that particular one was actually called Dream Warriors, wasn't it?
Say again, sorry?
Dream Warriors, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, very much so.
Now there's
a question from John.
Before we go into the question on the thing, there was one, I've just found a little note here that back in 2011 there was an article of a neuropsychiatrist, and he basically says that he had a patient in the States, a truck driver with an 18-wheeler zigzagging on the highway and was caught by the cops. He said the reason he was zigzagging was because he was busy going over little green dwarves, and he was feeling how they were being splattered by the truck and everything. He felt it, he saw them, and he heard the splattering. Another patient was watching TV when a furry animal came out of it and bit him on the arm. These hallucinations are usually in 3D, in colour, and very vivid. Now that's what he relates to his important data involving the Old Hag syndrome or narcolepsy. He's connected to two.
Sounds to me more like it was high as a kite.
It does, doesn't it? It sounds like something.
PCP. Sounds more like PCP to me.
Lorry drivers, especially in America, can drive for hours and hours. He could be literally falling asleep at the wheel and having that kind of dream, almost sort of waking state, a waking dream that we can sometimes have. Certainly, if you're experiencing exhaustion, you can be awake and asleep at the same time. Your brain, the part of your brain, should say, that is actually responsible for your dreams, is actually firing and active while you're still awake.
Could that not be the problem, though? People are actually having some sort of reaction to maybe their medication or something?
Well, I don't know. Most of the people I've spoken to a few people now directly that I've happened to know over the years who've had these experiences, and none of them on medication that I was aware of. It just seemed to be that the brain's functioning goes a bit haywire sometimes in that transition from waking to sleeping. Most of the time, the people were having these experiences in the middle of the night, having woken up to them. It was quite rare that people found them happening straight away. But sometimes you think if you're lying in bed at night and you're kind of drifting off, you can suddenly fall into a dream and suddenly wake up again. You know what I mean? You can find out 5-10 minutes you're dreaming quite deep.
I find a lot that when I go to drop off, I wake up quickly as if I've stopped myself from falling.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? That's horrible.
Again, I think there really is no known explanation for that. That one is absolutely a neurological mystery. Why we have that falling dream when we wake ourselves up. But obviously, I think we wake ourselves up so we don't actually fall.
Yeah.
But again, that's that kind of something very quickly into a deep state of sleep and into some kind of dream pattern that's happening that creates that sensation of falling. So I think that's.
I have heard a rumour that if you actually fall, you don't wake up.
I've heard that one before, but of course, how do you ask anybody who's done that?
No.
You may have. You've probably realised me actually kicking out.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm kicking out.
Why is it?
It's because I'm trying to go down a step that isn't there.
Oh, right.
And it's like, whoa. You know.
Yeah, but what are you trying to do? This is it.
I don't know.
Is it some sort of...
Because I'm not actually physically moving my legs to go up the steps.
No.
It's just that I suddenly get a feeling that I'm about to stand on something that isn't there.
Yeah.
And I thought...
It's weird, isn't it, what you do in your sleep?
What Stephen's described there is pretty much how it tends to happen. It is that's what I get sometimes. You're going to step forward or something, it's not there. You're going to miss the step or something.
Yeah.
And you find yourself jolting forward as if you've actually done it. And I think I think your body's gone into a deep state of sleep very quickly and dreaming, but the sleep paralysis that's normal hasn't kicked in yet. So you do find yourself suddenly jolting or jumping. But what really continued to fascinate me was the fact that you had these two kinds of experiences, whether it was being visited by some devil or demon or witch, or you were seeing aliens from another world visiting you. And I found that people that had interest in UFOs, but not so much in witchcraft, say, for example, had the abduction experiences. Those who were more perhaps interested in ghost stories or horror films would have the Old Hag experience. So their own interests seemed to determine what kind of experience they actually had. And I do think that a lot of these, I'm not saying all abductees never happen full stop, but I'm saying a lot of the people I think who believe they've been abducted or at least visited by aliens when they're in bed late at night, it's actually they're having this sleep paralysis and hypnagogic dreaming occurring at the same time. And that's creating that kind of imagery. But again, it still fascinates me, why that particular imagery? I mean, I'm just reading from my old notes, why not unicorns? Why not see fairies? You know? But it's not. It's usually with a tall, thin man or the short, fat woman. Now, sometimes, occasionally, say, with Whitney Strieber described the short, fat men as little blue doctors, as his son apparently called them that. But they were, again, small, fat, squat, and apparently blue. But the grey, willowy alien was very much present in those experiences as well. And as I say, the people that I've spoken to who've actually seen things, they describe one or the other. 9 times out of 10, it's one or the other. It's either sort of a witch-type figure or the alien figure. And I do wonder if perhaps like the idea of old, of witches casting spells on people visiting you and doing horrible things to you, is all based on this idea of people actually seeing this kind of imagery late at night in their imagination when they're actually having these experiences and believing that's exactly what they're seeing.
Yeah, it's that's kind of what I was about to ask you there, is that because we know of these things, the fact that we suddenly can't move, we automatically start looking for them.
Yeah. That's natural. We look for explanations. If we can't move,
all we have to see then is a shadow, and it's our mind does what it does naturally anyway, and makes a person out of it.
Exactly. That's the Simulacra effect, isn't it? Because if we wake up and feel you can't move, your natural, the first thing you're going to think is something stopping me from moving. What will stop me from moving? A person stop me from moving, because that's probably the most frightening idea. And the way our brains work, we tend to go for the worst possible thing first of all. But yeah, I do think that certainly is the case, that because we are experiencing something that we can't make sense of, that we're going to say, well, something's making me not be able to move. It's not just like, oh, well, I can't move. It must be my brain's still switched into sleep paralysis mode for deep sleep. You're not going to think that. I mean, even I probably wouldn't think that. I know quite a lot about it now. The first thing I'm going to think is, I can't move. Something's stopping me from moving.
Yeah, definitely. So what's your thesis on this? Are you going to pursue it a bit more?
I haven't really done much research into it. As you know, I'm involved in another rather intense course at the moment, so that's put everything else on hold. But it came up again fairly recently. I was talking to somebody else about the experiences that they'd had. It was a friend of my wife. She's woken up a couple of times, and that's just quite unusual. It didn't quite fit the scenario, because she woke up and found it was basically Anubis, the Egyptian god. This sort of jackal-headed thing was sitting on top of her in bed. I could do that a couple of times. And another time she had a jaguar cat sitting on her stomach, which she thought was wonderful. She didn't mind at all, which is unusual, because usually people are scared silly by these things. But yeah, she's very much into Egyptian stuff, and she saw Anubis. So again, it kind of fuels the idea of what you're into is what you'll see, because it's what you're interested in.
But have you ever sort of as a hypnosis chappie yourself, of actually putting somebody under hypnosis and see if it translates?
I'd love to get the opportunity. I mean, the client I mentioned before, we didn't really have a chance to delve into. I just said, perhaps an explanation of this will come up later on. I knew exactly what he was talking about. I thought, it's not really what you're here for. You're here for stress. I'm not going to talk to you about this. But the people I knew before, of course, was prior to being a hypnotherapist, so I didn't have the skill set then. But certainly, if anyone ever if you're perhaps listening to this, or if you know of anybody who wants to investigate their own experience, and I'd actually love to do that. Yeah, I think it would be a great way of exploring in greater detail. But the trouble is, I know some of the more famous cases they've used hypnotists, therapists, like with the Whitney Strieber thing, and he's came with more elaborate description of the inside of the spaceship. But I know it can be a very suggestive state. So if you go in there with the belief system that you have been abducted, then you're going to find additional imagery in your unconscious to strengthen that belief you've been abducted.
Yeah,
that's where it tends to fall down a little bit when you use hypnosis to try and find information, because you're already working with a predisposition to believe a certain thing, and because it's a suggestive state, it's not the therapist suggesting ideas to you, it's your own suggested system. What you actually believe in is going to then inform what comes out of you in hypnosis. So it can be difficult because there is that problem, but still be interesting to explore it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be what you said that will kind of deflate what I was thinking, that maybe the conscious mind will be telling you something completely different to the subconscious mind once you get in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Often, I mean, this is one of the ways in which therapy actually works well, because your conscious mind won't hide. Well, he's able to hide all sorts of things from you, but your unconscious can't. It's not geared up to do that. So that's what it was in the form of working with therapy, because in the hypnotic state, you're then able to access those unconscious thought processes and bring them closer to the surface, and then you can work with what's really going on rather than the baloney you're probably being told by the conscious mind. I mean, baloney as in sort of lies, but the way you kind of convince yourself of certain things. So that would possibly, again, be the same problem, that you can uncover all sorts of things that aren't necessarily related to what you're actually trying to explore with someone who's had those kind of experiences. But I mean, I'd love to have got a possibility of talking to somebody in the near future who believes have had an alien abduction experience, and that will be fascinating. And if I can get their permission to talk about it, honestly, I'll be more than happy to, but it's very much up to them if they're willing to or not. But it's just a sort of friend of a friend who's had an experience and wants to know more about the experience, so it's a possibility that might be happening fairly soon.
Yeah, that'd be good to hear back on that. Even if you can't give the details, it'd be interesting to hear whether what you thought was there actually came to fruition.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to certainly find out what they believe they've experienced and see if we can get some more detail from it. But let's say it does relate to this, because although I can't give you any kind of explanation as to why people see the alien spaceships when they have these experiences, certainly the forms of creatures that they see in their rooms, if you like, definitely adhere to the imagery that seems to be caused by this hypnagogic dreaming and the sleep paralysis effect. But it's certainly interesting to explore again where that imagery comes from, the inside of the spaceship. I mean, I can remember years ago having a very, very vivid dream that if I wasn't sure, I don't believe it happened to me, I could have said was an abduction experience. I remember waking up. Well, not waking up as such, but it's kind of being asleep, but not sure if I was asleep or awake, but lying on a bed in this very large domed room with very low ceiling to the side with bright lights coming out right from the edges of the room and a doorway, and it was just me and this kind of steel bed thing lying on it. There was no one else around. There was a low humming noise in the air, and it was the classic kind of inside of an alien spaceship. But I know it was a dream, but it was so vivid and so real, it was quite odd, because for quite a few days afterwards, whenever I saw a metallic surface with water on it, I used to get cold chills. And it used to go on for ages. I used to get, every time I see like a stainless steel sink with bits of water dropped on it, I'd get like a cold chill looking at it. You know, I could easily have built that up into an abduction story where I was obviously seeing the metal surface was reminded of the thing I was lying on, the water might be testing equipment or something. But I know it was a dream. But it was really powerful and vivid. So those kind of images seems, I think, lie in our subconscious, whether it's you must watch too many, alien films or sci-fi films or whatever. But it was a very strange experience in itself. And I can easily say you could then build that up into an abduction experience. If you've had the kind of experiences we're talking about, the hypnagogic dream and the sleep paralysis, you've seen those figures in your room, you then have a vivid kind of dream about the inside of what looks like a spaceship, then I can absolutely see why you could build that into a belief system. You're already having these real experiences.
Yeah, of course, if you are dreaming and you wake up quick for some reason, the dream's still in your mind, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. So very much so.
even for a split second, you're still seeing the dream, even though you're awake. So it then comes into the consciousness rather than the subconscious, and makes you believe things are happening when they haven't.
See, it's one of the biggest things is we often think of the mind being in that as two halves, the conscious and the unconscious, if there's some kind of magical line between the two, but there isn't. It is all degrees of awareness. And it's easy for your mind to slipping into a less conscious state and start to create the senses of things that aren't necessarily there, or misinterpreting things because we're just not paying enough attention to them. And just answering Norwich Paranormal Society's question, I think that is very much a primordial thought process, the idea of waking up in the night and feeling perhaps you're being watched or followed. And I think that goes right back millennia, back to the days when we lived in caves, and we're always constantly aware of the cave bearer that could be living at the back of the cave, or the jaguar tiger that might come and attack us. That we have that instinct to be wary of the dark, especially because there would have been all sorts of threats and dangers that would have been there, for hundreds of thousands of years. If you think the world we live in now has been the way it is only for a few thousand years, but we haven't changed one jot in, say, 40,000 years. You take Homo sapiens sapien, us lot, back 40,000 years, we look pretty much as we do now. I think men may have had more hair, because you and I, Steve, have the same problem. But generally speaking, we haven't really changed. Those instinctual drives and desires and sort of defense mechanisms, if you like, are still very much in place. And just because we're living in a modern society now that we think these things have disappeared, they certainly haven't. And we are always wary of the dark and unknown places, particularly late at night, because that's more likely when they get attacked by the cave bear and the saber-toothed tiger and those sorts of creatures. So,
yeah, I mean, I know if ever I walk into a pub or club or anywhere that's particularly crowded, I'm always watching everybody. It's actually got me in trouble a couple of times because it's like, what are you looking at? so I'm always kind of aware of where trouble might come from.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a perfectly natural, normal state. And again, even in the apparent safety and comfort of your own home, there's still that, particularly if you wake up in the night to go to the loo or something like that, there is that instinct. Because your brain's not fully functioning when you've just woken up in the middle of the night, you're still half asleep, and the more basic instincts part of the brain, the oldest part of your brain, is the one that's most active in those kind of states, and it is the part that's constantly on the alert and looking out for things.
Okay. Interesting stories, I must admit.
I've enjoyed that one.
And people don't realise about these sort of things, though, do they, Andy? They just
No,
not
definitely not. And it took me quite a while to find any real information on this at all. There's a few academic journals out that were talking about sleep paralysis, but it took a bit of digging. And of course, when people start to believe certain things and ideas that are sort of in the daily press, shall we say, or they're more easily accessible, you jump for those beliefs rather than sort of dig any further or deeper. But I think I'm not saying that this is purely just in the brain, just imagination, because I keep coming back to that same point. It's the imagery. Where does that particular imagery come from? Why is it always that kind of image that people see? The tall, thin, usually, I think, nearly always male, and the short, fat, nearly always a woman.
Yeah.
I just really don't understand that.
Well, I would think originally it would come from the fear of witchcraft. So,
you see, this I'm saying. I think it could be the other way around. It could be the other way around. People have had these images in their mind. They've associated those with wishes. That's where the idea of the witch's power comes from. It's because of these nighttime terror visitations by these creatures. Well, not creatures, the whatevers they are. And people have associated that with the witches. So it's kind of the other way around, is what I'm saying. It's that where it's come from.
Because the classic image of a witch is the old hag with the wart on the nose and all the rest of it, isn't it? That's the
exactly.
That's
I think that's
image.
people trying to interpret that actual imagery that they're seeing in these states, rather than that's what a witch looks like, and it's a witch that comes to visit you. You get me? It's kind of the other way around.
So,
well, what about
one perpetuates the other?
What about shadow people? Looking at the pictures of the shadow people, you've got the guy's got a hat on, but he's a tall, thin man.
Yeah.
And then you've got the hooded figure, which looks like an old hag. Yeah.
I've got to be honest, though, I don't think I've ever seen an image of a photograph of those things that I think's real. I've got to be honest.
No, but if you just look at the ones that are, if you put shadow people in, you get a silhouette of a hat man and a hooded figure. Yeah.
Okay.
But what you're saying there is people are normally seeing a thin man, which to me,
Yeah.
that is a thin man. An old hag, if you're looking at it properly, forget the fact that it's supposed to be hooded. If somebody's got long hair in the dark, it's going to look like a hood.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? So
And-
are they connected?
And I can comment slightly on that one. I was wide awake and working on an invest, setting up cameras, when I saw a shadow man, a tall, thin man, looking at me from the end of the line of the buses where we was. And as soon as I clocked it, he moved.
So this is it. Are they related to this? You know,
We got a crossover.
could it be a crossover with the shadow people and the old hag? People,
Well,
like you
the
say, they're
difference
seeing
would
these
be-
things. Pardon?
Because people are starting to say they're seeing shadow people in their own home.
Yeah, I mean, the difference would be that for me, the imagery that people see in sleep paralysis and hypnagogic dreaming is coming from the deep unconscious. Now, I'm very much a believer of the collective unconscious and Jungian psychology. I think that's a reality. But that means that these things don't have an independent reality from us. They are part of our psyche, our mind working. And from what I understand of people who've seen shadow people, is that they are seen as a separate entity that exists in its own right. So that's why I do have a difficulty with the two of them. Because for me, as I say, I don't think that any of the things people see in these states exist outside of us. It's part of our functioning of the human unconscious, the deep unconscious. But it could be also the origin of the shadow people, that it doesn't have an objective reality of its own. It doesn't exist separate from us, but it's somehow a manifestation of our deep unconscious. And I'm honest with you, that's what I think ghosts are as well. That it's something that's manifesting from our deep unconscious. It is dependent on our presence to exist. It doesn't exist independently of us in the same way like your cat does, for example. It doesn't rely on you for its existence. That doesn't mean to say that it's our imagination. This is a point I always stress. It doesn't mean these things are in our imagination. That's a different function of the brain. This is a deep psyche. It's the collective unconscious. It's symbolic imagery from the unconscious that comes through that does have an existence of itself, but not independently from us. It requires our existence. If we all stopped living tomorrow, if the planet was wiped out of all human life tomorrow, ghosts would stop tomorrow because they need us to exist.
Yeah, I'm
probably
going to answer my own question here, but because it's probably the fear of the unknown. But why do we always assume that these things are evil?
That's a good question, and I think that's primarily based on watching too many Hollywood films.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think also it's a kind of, again, it's a primordial idea that what we don't understand can potentially risk harm from it because we don't know what it is. So we tend to assume that things that we don't know we have to be careful of, and then that can then translate into that, well, then they are something to be scared of. So we become wary and frightened of the unknown because it's part of that kind of thinking process of, well, we don't know what it is, we don't know what it could do to us. And because, like any animal, we are predisposed to self-preservation, and things we don't know and don't understand, we tend to label as potentially a threat until we know that they're safe or not.
Well,
so that tends to be a reaction.
I've just Googled about how to stop this sleep paralysis. Yeah. Now, I don't know whether you agree with this.
You've been Googling.
I've been Googling. Researchers.
Googler, you.
Now, I found one that said researchers are learning more and more about this age-old condition. Some people have a greater predisposition to sleep disorders, and these are the ones that should avoid anything which messes with their sleep cycle, including night shift work, overtiredness, jet lag, and sleep deprivation. Now, they suggest to stop it and turn it into lucid dreaming, apparently. But first, relax your body into the paralysis. Don't fight it forcibly, as this will create panic and increase the chance of a negative hallucination.
Absolutely.
Hallucination. Try to gently wiggle your fingers and toes. These tiny movements will eventually tell your brain that your body is awake, and it will stop the atonia.
Yep.
At the same time, try to move your eyes by blinking and looking around the room. Again, the goal is to establish movement to fully awaken you. Try to move your lips and facial muscles. If you're breathing feels restricted by the paralysis, remember that you have been breathing fine like this while asleep. Focus on breathing as deeply as you can and not letting panic overtake your thoughts. And lastly, keep your mental state positive and calm. Focus on relaxing thoughts. Can you imagine a beach or distant location in the sun? Some people find it helps to sing in their mind, as this instantly raises your positivity. And they suggest turning your psychic paralysis into lucid dreaming.
And my one question is, how do you do all that while you think there's an old hag sitting on top of you?
Precisely. What do you think, Andy?
Well, that would be difficult. Yes, I agree with Steve. You've got a slight problem there. But yeah, I think absolutely what you're saying there is the way to deal with this sort of thing is to try and stay calm and recognise what's happening. But you have to know. And most people don't have a clue what's going on. And you do tend to panic because you're experiencing the inability to move, first of all. You're bound to straight away get into a panic, and it becomes a very quickly downward spiral into real fear of what the hell's happening. But the interesting thing was, the guy that was a client of mine came to see me for stress. And one of the problems he was having was he wasn't sleeping properly. So, not surprisingly, he was having these experiences. My friend who I was working with at the time, when he lived in Glasgow, was to finish his degree in art. He was working sort of 24/7 on his art project. So, again, these are the kind of things, when you are stressed or you are not sleeping properly, that's when your brain starts to act funny. And you start getting the weirdest stuff going on. I mean, actually, you guys know I'm trained to be a teacher at the moment, and I've had some pretty heavy weeks of work to do, and I've literally come home and spent the entire time planning lessons and going to bed and getting up next morning after about 5 hours sleep. And I've had the most bizarre and intense dreams. I've had not enough sleep. It's quite strange, and it's only because I know what's going on. Otherwise I'd be panicking, thinking what else is going on while these weird dreams I'm having. But I know that it's sleep deprivation. It's the effect it can have is your brain doesn't function properly. It doesn't go through the proper sleep cycles that it's supposed to. Because we are really supposed to get about 8 hours sleep. We go through 2 full cycles of sleep each night. Oh, well, you've disappeared. I just looked up at the screen and there's no... she's vanished. That's Tuesday. Yeah, so you're supposed to go through like a 4-hour or 8-hour cycle. We tend to have average about 6 hours sleep. So we tend to wake up in the middle of a deep sleep cycle, which is not a good thing at all.
Yeah,
she's back. You can look up
again. Going on?
He looked up and you've gone.
Oh, it's not that. The dog was in the cage and it looked like it was about to bark, so I thought I'd better let it out. Right, well, Nottingham. Norwich Paranormal has come back and said, have you ever come across anyone saying that they've had nice encounters apart from aliens, old ladies or Egyptians? Are people seeing these from their diet? For example, cheese causes nightmares, for example.
Well, it's supposed to, anyway.
Supposed to, yeah.
Well, answer that first question. Yeah, the wife's friend, she quite enjoyed this visitation from Anubis because she's really into Egyptian stuff. So, and the jaguar as well. She liked that big cat sitting on her chest. Didn't bother her at all. But she's a bit strange anyway. But the other one, I mean, I've actually experimented myself with trying to eat cheese late at night to see if it caused any strange dreams. And I just have strange dreams anyway. It didn't make any difference to me. So I really don't know where that idea about the nightmares and cheese comes from. It didn't work for me. So
it never affected me either. But then again, I never remember my dreams. So.
Oh, I always remember one. I'd hate to not remember. They're adventures. They really are good fun.
It's I say never. I do occasionally, don't I? So.
Yeah, once in a blue moon. The one that really plays in my mind, and I remember it to this day. You know, was I actually remember watching Mia Farrow in a program on a Sunday night, which was Peter Pan, yeah. Oh. And I remember going to bed that night, and I must have been about, I don't know, 6, 7. And I remember going to bed that night, and I dreamt. I'm sure it's obviously a dream, but I dreamt that Peter Pan came into my room, you know, and he said, "Come on, we're off to Netherland." And we opened the window. I'm so glad I wasn't sleepwalking, but we opened the window. Jumped onto the window and we were flying, and I said to him, "How far is it?" He said, "Second star on the right and straight on till morning." I turned right and fell out of bed.
Oh dear.
And I remember it to this day, you know what I mean, sort of like 40 odd years later.
That's an example of sleep paralysis not doing its job properly then. Dream.
But I'm just so glad I wasn't sleepwalking. Can you imagine me on the window, you know, getting ready to fly?
Stepping out the window, yes.
Oh dear.
I thought occurred.
Yeah, a thought occurred.
I thought just occurred.
Okay.
A rarity, I know, but it just did.
Paranormal.
Very paranormal. We're saying that these things happen when we're unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in that kind of grey area between conscious and unconscious, yeah.
But could this also be a reason why we see the tunnel, ourselves on operating tables and stuff like that?
So a bit again, a bit distorted there.
He said, could it be the same reason why we actually see ourselves on an operating table and the tunnel when it comes to dying and people have past life regression?
Whoa, hey, that's a whole different can of worms.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
No, and again, it must have been fascinating to me as well. I don't know. I mean, there are explanations for the light in the tunnel. It's all to do with how your brain's dying or switching off before you actually do come back if you don't dive. Or, and again, it's one of those ones that has that same imagery. That's what I find, again, the fascinating thing, and people seeing the same kind of thing. But certainly the operating of theatre and seeing yourself lying there, that's incredible. I mean, I'd love to have that kind of experience. Well, I don't have all of it, because I mean, you have to be near death to have it. But yeah, I mean, I've read and heard all sorts of reports of those kind of things, of people describing in detail what's being done to them that they couldn't possibly be able to see because they're unconscious. But yeah, no, that's another area, but that's equally fascinating for me too.
There's a lot of stuff out there that's fascinating, isn't it? It makes me wonder, when going back to the aliens and that, and this, that, and the other, and they're always saying, no, there's nothing there and what have you. Are we learning too much, would you think?
How do you mean?
Well, as I say, with the alien scenario, people are saying there's people out there and this is happening and they've seen it and they're being probed and they've been taken away, blah, blah, blah. Yet you get the powers that be, for want of a better word, saying, no, it's a load of rubbish, this isn't happening, blah, blah, blah. Are we learning too much and they're frightened?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? I mean, if these things are real and there is a reality to it, then it's something that they can't control. And I think that's very much the thing that governments, especially modern governments, want to believe they have the power to control everything in every aspect of our lives. That if there's things that they can't be in charge of, then, you know, that suggests they don't have the kind of power that we think they have, or that they want us to think they've got, if you know what I mean. That makes sense?
Yeah, just a bit. I just wonder why is it saying, did anyone else just disconnect?
Because I disconnected.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, on my laptop, I just disconnected. It went.
Oh, right, okay. It seemed to go.
Right, it came
okay.
Back.
So yeah, it's it is very thought provoking, these subjects, aren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, I've just found a little quote from, again, the article. I actually wrote an article on this a good few years ago for my therapy magazine, which was published in it. And this is a quote I picked up from medieval European folklore about the incubus, who's a male demon or evil spirit who visits women in their sleep to lie with them in ghostly sexual intercourse. The woman falls victim to the incubus and will not awaken, although they may experience it all in a dream. But she could get pregnant with a child, which is the mythology, the folklore stuff, which would grow inside her as a normal child, except that it was possessed supernatural powers. Usually the child grows into a person of evil intent or a powerful wizard. Legend has it that Merlin was the result of the union of an incubus and a nun.
Wow.
Quite interesting.
Wow.
That's something.
It is some creation. But yeah, it's so, as I say, provoking of the mind, and there's quite a few subjects out there that does this sort of thing. There's so much to gen up on, isn't there?
I mean, there's.
Yeah.
I don't think we will ever find out any truth here until we actually find out what the human mind can do.
I think one of the biggest problems is that with the absence of truth and honesty from governments, who will, they give you bits of information, and it's like, well, we let you have this bit of information and go away and just keep that. We fill the vacuum, we do. All of us have had odd experiences. What unites us all in the paranormal community, we've had our own experiences, and yet most governments will say, "Oh, it's a pile of nonsense." Of course, there's no such things as ghosts, and no such things as UFOs, but we're having strange experiences. We're seeing odd things that don't fit in. Look, if you either give us some kind of help to explain these things, or we'll just make it up for ourselves, and then you get all sorts of weird or wonderful theories start popping up. because there's a vacuum, and people will fill the vacuum of truth with whatever imagination they can come up with.
Yeah.
Whether they genuinely believe it or they use it as a way to make money for themselves, write strange books or appear on TV shows or what have you. You know, the fact that these ideas get dismissed out of hand, of course there's no such thing as ghosts, of course there's no such thing as UFOs, but okay, what are we seeing? Are we imagining all this stuff? You know, I don't think so. Definitely not.
We're constantly trying to connect the dots, aren't we?
Yeah, we are constantly trying to connect the dots. But Andy, as a psychiatrist,
psychotherapist, don't call me that. I'll get you.
Psychotherapist.
Yeah.
Psychotherapist.
Don't insult the man.
How would you basically explain all this, or are you open to suggestion? You know, because most people like yourselves, they'll look at it as a neurotic thing, won't they? And it's to do something's wrong with the mind or the makeup of the body. So how do you feel about all this?
Well, this is where it gets into the grey areas again, because I do think there are a lot of people out there who have, so we say, psychological issues that then will turn to things like the paranormal to try and explain them. I mean, you have a guest that I've talked about before. There were a couple of guests, actually, that you think, this guy's mad. This guy needs help. He needs my kind of help, my old profession.
Yes, you do give me your opinions, don't you? It is worrying, though, isn't it, when we hear some of these people on the show?
Absolutely. I mean, I won't name names, but one talking about voices in his head or telling these bad things are going on. And thinking that's a classic sign of schizophrenia, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But so I do think, I've got to be honest, a lot of the time people I've met over the years and these events that I've done, they are, you know, looking for thrill and adventure and excitement, and they'll see ghostly and supernatural paranormal events in the slightest little thing. But having said that, there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever a genuine phenomenon occur. Absolutely. I've been involved in investigations for absolutely years. I mean, I've got a collection of about a dozen recordings, audio visual, that I've collected in 20 years, you would say. Now, a dozen in 20 years is not many, but each one of those, I will guarantee you 100% I cannot explain them. I've done all sorts of investigative research trying to figure out what the bloody hell this voice is coming from an empty room. I mean, the best example I've got, which I probably mentioned before, was in the Edinburgh Vaults, where we've got a camcorder filming along the corridor into one of the rooms. She's pitch black, just using infrared, and you see the shape of a man's head and shoulders rise up and move across the room. You know, but we know there's no one in that room. Absolutely guarantee you there's no one in that room. But yet there it is on camera, on video. It's just no getting away from it. It's there. We've got voices recorded as clear as a bell, saying things in rooms that we know there's no one in, and you can tell it's not a stray radio signal. It is a person speaking in that room at the time, saying all sorts of things. But again, say 20 years of investigation, I've probably got no more than about a dozen of these, but they are, to me, totally unexplainable.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a reality to this stuff that's beyond. Again, I keep saying this, that I think it's to do with the way our mind works. So that doesn't mean to say it's in our imagination. I think it's something beyond that. But it always requires our presence, or at least our involvement, for these things to occur. But there are things that are beyond what we can explain currently without our conventional understanding, should we say, of how the universe and the world works.
Well, if these things are actually happening like we think they are, then begs the question, are we making it happen, or are we attracting it?
That's the question. That is the big question. I think, in a sense, we kind of make it happen, but not in a way of imagining it or deliberately causing it because you want to. I've certainly noticed on investigations I've been on time and again, if you've got a crowd of people who are kind of half-heartedly involved, they're sort of there just not really that bothered, the event, very little happens. You get a crowd of people who are really enthusiastic, really want to get involved, stuff happens. And it's not them making it happen in a sense of, you know, throwing stones or whatever. It's because they've got the vibe, the energy's right, if you like. And then far more things will manifest. I mean, to me, the classic example, the place I've been to so many times, is Woodchester Mansion. You can go there with a crowd of 20 people on an event that they've paid to be on there, and if they're not really up for it, the place is as flat as a pancake. But if they're really into it, you start getting all sorts of weird things happening. You know that not people make it up. You know, noises you're hearing, things getting moved about, that kind of stuff. And you know that it's because the people are really into what's happening. So their energy, if you like, their vibe is feeding into it and creating the energy for these things to occur.
Definitely.
So it's more an energy thing than.
Oh my God, what happened there?
What?
Weird noises coming out of my computer. The spacecraft is about to take off.
It's paranormal.
Oh, no. I mean, you got to take it down to the sort of deepest levels of what you perceive reality itself actually is. I mean, I don't want to get too deep here, but I mean, it depends if there is. Everyone's probably heard of "I think, therefore I am" from Descartes. This whole idea of the mind has been absolute. It's actually wrong. It doesn't work. It's a thought experiment that actually he makes a mistake in, and then you can't just say that reality exists because I think it's there. It's either you're there and you're within it, or it's all imagination. Oh, I forget it. It's getting too deep now.
So that's kind of like saying we make our own reality.
We think of ourselves as being objects in a world that's around us as a physical reality that you can differentiate between, say, me and the table, or you and Steve, and your house and my house. They're different things. Yeah. In actuality, when you go down to the lowest, sort of smallest subatomic level, that's all nonsense. It's all one thing. There's one unified field.
Oh, where are you going?
Matter is just a form of energy, and that's how we perceive it at this level, as being physical matter. But it's just energy. All of it's just energy, and there's no separation, no differentiation between you, me, and the table, the cup, my phone, the computer I'm talking on. It's all energy. I mean, that's science. It's not kind of weird mysticism. I mean, it happens to be a form of mysticism I believe in, but it's not mysticism itself. It's scientific fact. That's how the universe is. It's all united.
But doesn't that then bring us to the Matrix?
Yeah, well, kind of, except we're not dreaming it. We're actually in it. It's real.
Right, okay. Well, Andy, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Collectively now, haven't I?
Pardon?
I've just bamboozled everybody now, haven't I?
No, you're all right.
No, that was fun. I enjoyed that.
It was really good, really interesting. It's nice to learn these things.
And what I'm finding now, that I am enjoying, is that I'm not getting bamboozled anymore.
Yes.
I'm starting to get into it and actually think, well, hang on, what about this and what about that? And I'm loving that, because I'm learning all the time.
This is it.
That's it. I mean, I think that's one of the problems I often encounter is people come to like events, investigation with a certain set of beliefs about what's happening and what it means, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, give yourself a moment. Let's look at actually what's occurring. It doesn't prove that there's an afterlife, doesn't prove there's a heaven, doesn't prove any of that. It just proves that strange things happen that we can't necessarily explain.
There's a question for you.
There you go. There's one for you, Andy. Why is it that John says he's more physically aware when he's around me and Steve?
Now, does he mean psychically aware or physically aware?
I think he means psychically
aware. Yeah, I'm reading physically. Psychically.
Well, that comes back to that same point I made, that we're all interconnected anyway. So if you're people that you feel comfortable with, your brain tends to work differently. In the same way that whatever situation you find yourself in personally, you're a different person depending on what you're doing or where you are. But that's the fluidity of human consciousness, and it's not one thing that's just set and you're the same all the time. When you're with like-minded people, your brain tends to work in a different way, so you will feel differently, and you can, psychic awareness. It makes perfect sense in a universe where this is all one thing, because it's just a transference of energy again. It's nothing special, nothing exciting. No. And the same idea with the ghosts. They're just manifestations of energy that kind of condenses into a form for a while that we can connect with, we can see, we can understand, we can be aware of, shall we say. It doesn't require anything more than that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, you are an oracle of information, Andy.
Well, I do my best.
So we'll have to get you back on again talking about something else. Because I'm sure you've got a lot to talk about
now. So if you heard me saying get down, it's because I'm being attacked by dogs.
See a little doggy wandering around there. That's quite nice.
Yeah, we've got two. We've got this one here,
which is free to a good home. Oh, it's not free, is it?
And then we've got our Roxy as usual, a little white one.
So, well, thank you again, Andy. Thank you for stepping in a bit earlier because of Wade not being with us. I don't know whether it's down to the fact that he's got confused with the timing. or whatever. But hopefully we can get him back on sometime.
Yeah, hopefully. I always love it's fascinating
Because I
the
want
way
to
that.
talk
So
about
there's a friend of mine. He's very much interested in that sort of thing. And him, I told him you were coming. He was coming on your show, and he fell off his chair. I was like, bloody hell!
I nearly fell off the
Tune in
chair
for
when he said yes, we can do it. Because I've been after him for a year, and
That's a
then
shame.
unfortunately, I don't know what's happened. I really don't. As I say, he asked me to confirm yesterday, which I did do, but I never heard anything back. So, confirm and remind him basically. I said yes, and I've not heard anything since. So, whether something's gone on or he's forgotten, I don't know. So, I'll get hold of him. So, and
hopefully we'll get him on. It's absolutely fascinating to hear about him myself. It's an interest of mine.
Yeah.
I've more recently become quite fascinated with a different branch of the occult. We talked before about interest in the occult that kind of involves sort of folk magic, and sort of voodoo is part of what you might call the folk magic tradition. I mean, it's kind of what links to stuff in Europe as well. I've recently got hold of a fantastic book called The Graveyard Wanderers. And you've got to see this book. It's amazing. It's leather bound, but it's got like this large copper plate of a skeletal hand in the cover. It's fantastic. It's a piece of art on itself, but it's the text inside is a collection of sort of magical spells from Scandinavia, from Sweden mainly. But there is kind of connections with what's in that connects to what's called the Dutch. It's the American powwow magic, which is often called the Dutch powwow, but actually Deutsch is German magic that's transferred over to America with the first wave of settlers, and then that kind of mixes in with sort of voodoo, what's called palamiombe and stuff like that. So there's a kind of a lineage, and it kind of links into Western witchcraft, real witchcraft, not wicked stuff, the actual proper witchcraft.
Yeah.
Of you find in rural England. There's all these kind of weird connections going on. It's the sort of stuff I'd love to write a book about, but I just don't have the time anymore now, which is a real shame.
Well,
but yeah, so he's talking about the voodoo stuff, links and stuff I've been researching myself, and I get time to do research these days when he's teaching. I don't think my son can do anything. I don't have time to breathe very often, but there we go.
This is it. And even though some people sort of think it's ridiculous about the zombie apocalypse and stuff, I know it's a little bit of a different grain sort of thing, for want of a better word, no pun intended. But you're getting all these reports, even though 2012 was quite prolific, of people with bath salts and whatever going out and becoming cannibals and attacking people, mainly in America, I must admit. But I actually added a few things to the website and actually found out that this has been going on for quite a few years. This zombie attacks, for want of a better word. So maybe there is something in this Ragnarok Rising, for all we know, because what I found was the fact that there is a book out, and it's called, when I can find it, 2 seconds, I'm trying to think where I'll put it now. There's a book out that that mentions about the zombies. I can't find it. I put it somewhere.
It's always the way.
I know. Let me search zombie. I'll find it. Zombie apocalypse. That's what I'm looking for. There is a book that's it's called The Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brook, and it actually, I'll put the link on the website on the forum, but it actually records back to 60,000 BC in Katanga, Central Africa, the first zombie attack. It goes all the way through 3,000, 5,000 BC, blah, 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 then into the AD. It goes up to 2002 to St. Thomas's, US Virgin Islands. And you've got places like Morocco, India, California, Arizona, Egypt, French, Indochina, you know, and you don't realise how far these go back. And if it's to do with some sort of chemical, if everyone has this chemical that, you know, they're getting their symptoms of wanting to eat humans, you know, and going crazy, then maybe, we are on the verge of a zombie apocalypse.
Well, that's a nice bedtime story.
It is. It is.
Cheers, babe.
You're not with me.
But you know what I'm saying, though?
I tell you what.
You think about it as this is just a story, it's a film, it's nothing that's going to happen. But when you hear about it in the news and, it's not, The Walking Dead or whatever, but...
Well, again, it's not far away from what we're already talking about. It's this whole notion of how the brain works, and when it starts to go wrong, what can happen? The brain is incredibly complicated, the way it operates. I mean, the simple basic statement like, we still cannot explain what consciousness is. The fact that the brain is doing billions of functions simultaneously, but why does that then give rise to consciousness? How does that come about? That's one of those kind of most fundamental questions of how are we self-aware? And we are self-aware uniquely on this planet compared to any other animal. Our self-awareness is different because we have what's called reflective self-awareness, which other animals just don't have. They're aware of themselves. I mean, often, sort of dog attacks a reflection of itself, and most animals will attack a reflection of itself thinking it's another animal.
Yeah.
Some can recognize that in time, but no other animal has that cognitive ability. The studies of the animals' brains are working compared to ours. The complexity of our brain operation is incredible compared to every other animal on the planet. I think it's ancient aliens myself. I think they fiddled with our DNA about 50,000 years ago.
They must have done.
That's another story.
That is another story, because there are people out there that actually think that we do have alien DNA in our species.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in all seriousness, I don't think it's impossible that we have been visited in times gone by. I mean, I do watch the Ancient Alien series and absolutely love it, and most of it I recognise as a pile of poo. But there are a few examples you think, well, how did they do that? How did that happen? So I can see it's being entirely possible that maybe the aliens aren't visiting us right this minute, but in the sort of the history of the Earth, it's quite possible that a civilization that now today was died out millennia ago did visit this planet. And in a kind of attempt to preserve itself, made up alterations to our DNA in order for us to be in their likeness, if you like. Because there are, again, evolutionarily, there are problems, there are gaps in our evolutionary path from the basic apes up to human beings. There are gaps that we can't be explained.
No.
Sudden Homo sapiens sapien, what we are, the sudden massive acceleration in brain cranial capacity is just incredible. The speed at which the human brain developed in a certain time frame, that's a very long time ago. It's fascinating how the brain just grew so rapidly. Faster than evolution should realistically allow.
Are you of the opinion that with all these sci-fi programs, obviously a lot of it is complete do as you say, but that we are being drip-fed stuff?
I can see it being possible. I wouldn't like to say definitively yes or no. I can see it being a possibility. Again, that's one of those things they suggest, these ideas come out, that there are lots of films and stories almost like preparing us for the possibility that we're about to be visited. I don't know. To be honest with you, I can see it as being entirely possible or entirely just fabrication and silliness. I really don't know.
Because there are examples of appliances that have been seen in sci-fi programs years ago, and then all of a sudden we've got them.
Oh, classic one. Star Trek, of course.
Things like the microwave and stuff like that.
Now you can get for real. Like tablets, I mean, that's the obvious one. The little panels you just walk around with, the little doodle, what's the next generation. Now anyone can do it with your iPad or your Samsung Galaxy Tab and those kind of things. So, I mean, that's certainly possible.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it just goes to show in tonight's conversation that when you delve into the realms of the unknown, it is true that everything interconnects, and we've always said that.
Yeah. I mean, just how far have we moved from the Old Hag syndrome
to aliens, to the mind, and it does all interconnect. I don't care what anyone says, it does, because we've just proved that, everything is connected in some way, shape or form.
And we haven't taken a big U-turn on anything.
No.
We've actually gone straight from one to the other because we're talking about the different things that link in with it.
Yeah. Don't you agree, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, thank you very much, my darling. I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and,
all right.
John's left an example on on the chat room for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
let's have a look.
and I'll speak to you soon. So,
Indeed, absolutely.
Thank you very much for
No problem at all.
that. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care, my friend.
Well, that was Andy Mercer. A mind of many different topics he has.
Yes.
You know, and we've delved into his brain quite a few times, haven't we?
We have. He's,
What with JFK and stuff like that. So I'm sure that we'll visit another part of his psyche sometime in the near future. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to let you know what's going on in and around the UK. And it's the paranormal events.
We've got all the news right here. Don't go away.
Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory.
And first up, we have on the 20th of March, we've got a psychic supper in Lancashire. Back to Molly O'Grady's for that one, and that's with paranormaluk.co.uk. On the 22nd of March, there's a ghost hunt at the Great House in Midgley, Halifax, and originally a great house farm. It is and has been one of the original buildings in the small village of Midgley. Built in 1600, this place used to be a prayer house, also a shop, and even a post office. And you can find out more of how frightening it is from theotherside.org.uk. Also on the 22nd of March, the Viaduct Tavern ghost hunt is in Newgate Street, London. The Viaduct Tavern stands opposite the Central Criminal Courts, better known to the world over as the Old Bailey. It dates from 1875 and is the last example of a late Victorian gin palace left in the City of London. Find out more with Spooksavers at spooksavers.co.uk. Also on the 22nd of March, RAF Honkton. You can join Compass Paranormal there, up in Hull, and they have exclusive access to the areas that have not been opened for 30 years. You can find out more at compassparanormal.co.uk. We're back at Molly O'Grady's on the 28th of March for a psychic supper, again in Leicester, with Paranormal Eye UK. And on the 29th of March, the Rifle Museum, otherwise known as the Wardrobe, in Salisbury, Wiltshire. The Rifle Museum is a military museum that has been, and there has been buildings on this site since the 13th century, and parts of this current structure date back to the 1540s. Find out more from compassparanormal.co.uk. And don't forget, there's still them two top mediums circling the country. You can see Tony Stockwell live and find out about his events at tonystockwell.com. And Derek Akora's doing his theatre tour, the Enlightenment Tour. And you can find out more about where he's appearing near you at derekakora.com.
So check out the one-stop paranormal directory for more investigations and events, available now. Paranormaleventsforyou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. Paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory.
Yeah, that's what we got for you this month on the paranormal investigation scene. But I'm sure there's many more out there. But if you want to advertise on paranormalevents.co.com, just have a look at the website and sign up and do so. Right, okay. As I said earlier, it's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. And every year, the Irish and the Irish at heart across the globe observe this day. But it actually began as a religious feast day for the patron saint of Ireland, and became an international festival celebrating Irish culture with parades, dances, special food, and a whole lot of green. And I don't know whether you celebrate Irish St. Patrick's Day, but the holiday has become an emblem of spring and all things Irish. So as we say, the folklore on March the 17th talks about mythical green leprechauns, green shamrocks, green fingernails, green rivers, green athletic jerseys and green alcoholic drinks, among others. For countless numbers of celebrants, it is a holiday in which religion and the pub meet halfway. That's what it says here. Many begin the day.
That's kind of typically Irish, that, isn't it?
Many begin the day with the acts of devotion, only to end it with the excessive booze. I'm only reading what it says. This type of widespread inebriation moved Michigan's government to pass a super drunk law in 2010. The date is even part of the AAA Motor Club's Tow to Go program, a free and confidential ride home for drunken holiday drivers. Now, I found a few things about St. Patrick.
Yes. Didn't you also find out that he is also the patron saint of Nigeria?
I think we did hear about that
we
recently. Did. Right, so was St. Patrick's Irish? No. Although no one knows for certain where he was born, based on his own account, it was more likely in southwestern Britain. As a result, it's fairly common to find various pundits gleefully commenting on the irony that Ireland's patron saint was actually English. Problem, of course, is that no one in the 5th century was what we would call English. Rather, the people living in present-day England were Romanised Celts or Britons. So Patrick is thus more actually called a Celtic Briton, son of a low-level Roman official. Did you know that, Steve?
I didn't know he was a son.
Sir Patrick was the first Christian ministry to Ireland. True or false?
True.
No. Contrary to the popular belief, St. Patrick was not the first Christian missionary in Ireland, though he was certainly the most successful. Some evidence exists of missionaries travelling through Ireland in the late 4th century AD, but they seem to have enjoyed little success. The best known missionary before Patrick was Palladius, sent by Pope Celestine in 431 AD to minister to the Irish who believe in Christ. Many scholars believe that at least some of the deeds and accomplishments later attributed to Patrick were more likely those of Palladius. Some even contend that Patrick and Palladius are one and the same. They were others as well. Auxilius and Cerninus worked in the south of Ireland, while Secundinus preached in the north and east. St. Patrick used the shamrock to teach about Christianity. One of the most enduring tales of St. Patrick was that he used the shamrock to explain the mystery of the Trinity by comparing the 3 leaves with the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit to the pagan Celts of Ireland. The legend is unverifiable. I'm getting as bad as you. Since Patrick doesn't mention it in his writings, some have suggested it derives from the earlier Celtic traditions of using the shamrock as a metaphor representing a trust in your soul, belief in your heart, and faith in your mind. Some missionary, if not Patrick himself, very likely Christianized this concept. Few in Ireland seem troubled by these details, and the shamrock remains the Irish national symbol. Okay, did he actually drive the snakes out of Ireland?
Did the Eckers like?
There's only one problem with this story. Ireland never had any snakes to drive away. Separated from England, where snakes of all sorts abound, and the continent thousands of the years ago, Ireland emerged from the Ice Age snake-free. If St. Patrick was alive today, or of course we could expect that his spokesman would come forward to offer a slightly modified legend which stretched but did not break the limit of belief. Since Patrick's arrival in England, no snakes have been sighted. In Ireland. The annual St. Patrick's Day parade is an Irish tradition. Actually, the parade was invented in Manhattan. Did you know that?
I kind of imagined it was an American thing.
Yes, traditionally understood as a day of his death in 493 century. or circa 493, at Downpatrick in County Down is a tradition that comes from old Ireland. For centuries, the people of Ireland marked the day as a solemn religious event, perhaps wearing green, sporting a shamrock and attending mass, but little more. Certainly there were no massive parades like the ones found in the cities these days. Okay. Did he invent the urban political machine? I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. The Irish invented the urban political machine, but they didn't invent them, apparently. They dominated the urban political machine, but didn't invent them. I don't know what that's about.
What's that got to do with St. Patrick?
I haven't got a clue. Okay. Here's a few odds and ends. Leprechauns are cute little elves. Stop right there, turn around slowly, and drop the picture in your mind of a little guy with Lucky Charms cereal bowl. Yeah? That jolly little imp and his counterparts on greeting cards, pub signs, and your Auntie Margaret's stationery bears almost no resemblance to the leprechaun of the Irish mythology. To borrow a phrase from a long-dead philosopher writing about something entirely different, they were nasty, brutish, and short. Leprechauns were grumpy, alcoholic, insufferable elves in the employ of Irish fairies. They made shoes for fairies, hence their depiction as cobblers, and guarded their treasures, which to the leprechauns' eternal frustration was revealed occasionally to mortals by a rainbow. Somewhere in the course of the Irish-American experience, the leprechaun took on the characteristics of the lovable but ultimately contemptible stage Irishman. A luck of the Irish refers to the abundance of good fortune long enjoyed by the Irish. Really, what sort of luck is to bring about 1,000 years of invasion, colonisation and exploitation, starvation and mass immigration? Of course, it carried with it a certain tone of derision, as it says, only to be sheer luck, as often to brains could these fools succeed. So that's a little bit about. I probably just pulled St. Patrick's Day to pieces, really, haven't I?
St. Patrick and the Irish.
But never mind. So John's enjoying the tongue twisters.
And
but if you are going out tomorrow, enjoy.
Can I just make a statement, please?
Go on.
I have no problem with the Irish and everybody celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
But
why is the patron saint of England not celebrated?
Yes, I must admit.
Even though he wasn't English either.
No.
He was Turkish.
He was Turkish. I don't know.
Go figure.
Did we ever have an English one or an Irish one?
That's St. George, isn't it? Is the patron saint of England.
So, well, anyway, enjoy yourself tomorrow and happy March the 7th. Or 17th, yeah.
17th is Paddy's Day.
How do you actually say Happy St. Pat's Day?
In Gaelic.
I don't know about
you wanted tongue twisters? No, you're about to get one.
Oh dear.
Come on, Susie.
I don't know whether you can actually or not. Let's have a look. Let me see. I don't think you can do it in Gaelic, surely.
Go on, have a go.
You want me to see if I can find it?
Yeah, quickly, go on, have a go.
Okay, let's have a look. I'll have to find Gaelic first. So, there is nothing here. How to say Happy St. Patrick's Day in Gaelic. Tell someone. How the hell am I supposed to say that?
Go on.
La freheli predlectiona de wheat. Probably means nothing at all what I've just said.
But at least you tried.
At least I tried.
And I think Andy has corrected me that George was Maltese, not Turkish.
Was he? Right. Okay.
But he was still the patron saint of England, and should therefore be celebrated by the English.
Definitely. So let's see. I'm just going to try and give you a traditional Patrick's Day greeting for tomorrow. Okay. Irish blessings is saying, may you always have walls for the winds a roof for the rain, tea beside the fire, laughter to cheer you, those you love near you, and all your heart might desire. And on that note, I think it's time for us to go.
Or you could say, may you always have food in the cupboard, a coin in your pocket, and a wee dram to keep you warm.
That's Scottish.
It's still a dram, whether it's Scottish or Irish.
But, right, just to let you know, we were supposed to have had Maria D. Jones on next week, but she's had to postpone her interview, and she's getting back to me with another date. So I haven't really got anyone for next week, but I'll try and find somebody, see what happens. If not, we're winging it. I've got 5 days to find somebody, so we'll see what we can do.
Well, we might actually be able to get hold of Wade.
Well, you never know. He might be available next week, so we'll see what happens. But until then, as I say, we are okay for the week after. We have Ryan Gooding on, so don't forget, if you want a reading, that's the time to get him. Okay, so just let us know if you want a reading, and we'll put your name into the hat to have one.
Yep.
Okay. I think Andy wanted a reading last time, so I put him on.
And don't forget, guys, as we always say at the end of the show, keep safe, keep warm, and keep the paranormal friendly.
Good night and God bless.
Good night, everyone.
To see in the night, to measure the spike, to see how cold it's been. I buy my kit so I won't forget the ghosties that I have seen. The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.